Oh, ha, ha, ha. Happy Halloween. I'm Jesse McCabe, CEO here at Solid Digital, and thank you for joining us on this Halloween edition of our webinar series for digital marketing directors. This is called Scary Stories from the Marketing Department. Real quick, Halloween is a big event around my house. If you know me, you know that my whole family is huge Halloween fans. My son has a big Halloween YouTube channel, and we do a big Halloween haunt. So all year round is a pretty Halloween place here at my house. But when it is the week of Halloween, it is something special. So we have a lot going on here, getting all set up for this weekend, and it's really exciting. So we felt like it was a good time to not only celebrate the holiday, but also to bring in some guests and share some experiences with you. Our purpose of these webinars is really to bring the community of marketing professionals and leaders together, share some experiences, answer some questions, and just talk about things that they've learned along the way. So today we have some amazing guests that are joining us. We have Jana Bartlett. She's from Aristech Services, Jillian Carter, who's from Brand Trust, and then Melinda Joseph, who's from Sterling Trading Tech. And they're going to share with us some spooky, scary stories from their experiences of living in the marketing department. So to get us kicked off, I'm going to bring in Jana. Hold on one second. Hey, Jana. Can you hear me okay?
How are you?
Hey.
I'm doing good. How are you?
So like I said, great. Thank you for joining. So like I said, Jana's the Director of Marketing at Aristech Services. Your background's in graphic design, though, I saw on LinkedIn.
Yep. So I bring something a little bit different to the marketing field by having that as a baseline education. I would say my creative side definitely shines through the marketing side. So it was a good transition.
And can you tell us a little bit about Aristech and how long you've been there?
Yeah, so I'm going on 5 years at Aristech Surfaces. They're a global manufacturer of acrylic sheet. You might experience our acrylic sheet within the wellness category of a hot tub in your backyard or sanitary ware within your bathroom, at home or at a hotel. And then we also have architectural building and construction materials is much of our business as well. So within this past year, we've all experienced the GPA clear screen everywhere, right? So it's one of our core products. But you can also experience some of our products like within national account chains in surfacing, solid surface or architectural resin, and even within transportation and recreation as well. So a bit of a broad scope, all are acrylic in nature. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
And you head up the marketing department there?
I do, yeah. And really the enticement to come to Aristech Surfaces just short of 5 years ago was the story that you could tell. At the end of the day, we produce a lot of different size, shapes, and colors sheets, but it's really what the customer transitions them to, whether it be, a consumer good at the end of the day, or, a masterpiece within a hospitality setting, backlit, kind of focal point. So it's really what, the draw for me is that story. We're a very large manufacturer and there's a huge story there. We've been in business for over 50 years. But it's really what our products become and how it solves, how it becomes a solution for a lot of our customers.
That's awesome. And so you're going to share a story with us and we've titled it, it's an event coordinator who becomes a ghost. So I'm going to give,
Yes.
I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell us your story.
I'm probably not as animated as Jesse, and I certainly don't have the amazing red eyes. But I'll try to convey this scary story as well as I can, for sure. So it's a fresh story. Some of you within maybe within the design field and know of a show called Design London. It was just held this past about a month ago, to be honest, about 45 days ago in London. And it was really preparation for this show where I was working with our marketing manager within the EMEA region. And she let me know in May that she had taken another opportunity and then would be leaving us. So I don't know if ghosted is the right term, but it fits certainly the theme of today. So within May, we knew of this show. We had planned for this show. And within my career, I've planned for different trade shows, all over North America. So it was a little bit different of a show to be able to uh, coordinate for from afar, because
Sure.
logistically, I mean, that's just what you have to do. But you rely on the services that are available to you from the trade show venue and professionals within that region. And she certainly departed with me quite organized, and it was an amazing effort on her part to make sure that I was so completely professional, certainly that way. Well, in May, uh, prepping for a show in September is not a huge urgency. I really started diving into the details in June. However, I knew this very modular trade show structure featuring the plethora of materials that we have in our portfolio was a bit spread all over Europe. I had modules in France being created. I had modules in Spain needing some work done prior to going to London. And then I had some additional modules in Belgium. So
Wow.
first off, I had to get them in one location, and obvious choice was in London. So I started that process of getting those coordinated. Um, not fabricating in their home at the time, but actually just getting them into one location and really making it easier for myself, coordinating from afar. And started that in June. Again, September, not a big deal, right? Like there's plenty of time for all of this to happen, all of these stars to align, not a big deal. Well, in June, I started that quoting process of, okay, you have these modules. I want them shipped here. Doesn't seem like a hard task. However, the packaging of the modules themselves were lackluster. Um, and I discovered this as part of the quoting process. Shoot me a picture. Let me know what this looks like. If there is some damage, we can go ahead and fix it. And I wanted to go ahead and invest in some crates, which are typical of a trade show just for protection in transit because I mean fork trucks are fork trucks and
Sure.
they aren't they have a mind of their own at sometimes and can cause some challenges, at least for trade show planning, that I've come across. So in June, started this quoting process. Just wanted to get them safely. Any further damage be mitigated prior to going to London for final fabrication and really the show. Well, it ended up being in July. My France shipment went, my Belgium shipment went, and within Spain, for some reason, it was a challenge. Number one, to locate all of my modules. There was a disconnect. And then number two, a language barrier. So
Hmm.
I was finding myself writing these emails and then Google translating them and trying to, getting these responses and Google translating those. And it's not a big deal, right? Like it's just part of doing business in the country. But the challenges just kept compounding. Like, well, I have this one, but I didn't have this one. And my entire assumption and my very organized sheet that she left me had gaps. And I was like, just
Yeah.
please, somebody help me. So I implored one of our very kind salesmen who did not have time to really help me, but I implored him to. He got a very fine bottle of whiskey at the end of the day from me, but um, I implored him to just close the gap of the language barrier so we could get through this quickly because we found ourselves at the end of June into July still trying to get these quotes, get
Wow.
confirmation on what they had, and it was just kind of nuts. So it actually ran into August prior to me getting this item out of Spain, and it was truly just because it was um, it was confirmation on what they had, confirmation on when they could ship it, confirmation on when they could fabricate the crate that I wanted. It was just compounding, and weeks upon weeks just went by. And next thing the show's right around the corner. I'm
Yeah.
in mid-August in Spain, and if you know anything about that or have experienced that within that region, they basically shut the entire country down for 2.5 weeks and they all go on vacation, which is amazing. I want to move to Spain, but
Yeah.
not when I have a show deadline. So I finally get all the confirmations that I need. Everything's going, and it's 2 days prior to the shutdown, and I cannot get a truck there
Oh my God.
to get them out. So my all my modules were basically trapped for um,
So
two and a
how,
half weeks. And the
and then
gentleman
how
came
long
back
did you
and I was
have
like,
before the show?
so that was end of August. It was a mid-September show. So, and it was not even in the same country. So it was a bit of stress level, as you could probably tell, as I'm recapping some of this. Um, but at the
But it got
end
there?
of August, it I finally, the owner came back, and he was quite pleasant to work with after his 2.5 week vacation,
Yeah.
obviously. But my show, the majority of my booth was basically held hostage for 2 weeks while he just, I'm
So,
sure, was somewhere amazing. So, um, in but next thing you know, all of it shipped to London. Everything is going as planned, but it was truly me not understanding some of the regional differences and customs and holiday calendar. It became a very scary story and a very stressful situation. That the stars eventually aligned, and we had an amazing show in mid-September at Design
wow.
London. But
And
yeah,
you
that's
did all of that
my
remotely.
yeah.
Wow. And so the lesson learned
It's
here is
amazing what you can do remotely, to be honest. But
it's
and
true.
we've all proven that over this
Yes.
past time.
But the lesson learned is don't do business in Spain in August, obviously.
No, it means just go there, take the
Go
vacation when they do, and then
yes.
plan
Move
accordingly.
operations to Spain. I got it. Awesome.
Yeah, for me, the lesson learned was definitely get in line uh, with where your materials are. I mean, I almost took it for granted it would be very similar to North America, and it was quite different. And it was really just inexperience of being truly hands on in that process within those particular countries. I just I coordinated it through people. I've not done it hands on. So that was the lesson learned for me. The ghosting turned out to be okay, which was very good at the end. So
So do you still manage that show now or you've handed that over to
yeah,
somebody else?
so Well, obviously, I can do it much smoother now. Like it's no
Right.
big deal, right? I just ask when the holidays are ahead of time. But
That's awesome.
no, we actually have since hired an EMEA marketing manager back in that role. So she will be
Awesome.
managing that. I will be managing any of these shows that she wants here in North America. And it just makes sense to do so logistically.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Jana, thank you for sharing that. That was a scary story right up to the last minute there. But I'm
Yeah.
glad that it all worked out, and there was definitely some lessons learned, and definitely a takeaway for me. I will keep that in mind to go work in Spain
Thank
in
you.
August. But thanks for joining us, Jana. I'm going to bring in our other guest, Jillian Carter. Jillian,
Hi,
hey, thanks for joining us.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Jillian, you are the marketing director at Brand Trust. You've been at Brand Trust for 11 years, over 11
Yeah, a
years?
little over 11 years now.
Wow. And
Yeah.
your background is in journalism.
Well, that's what I graduated with.
Okay.
Um,
Tell
but
us. How
never
does it?
became an actual journalist.
No.
I write a lot, but not a journalist. But have been in sales and marketing for my entire
Entire
career
career.
prior to Brand Trust and then into Brand Trust.
And I also noticed on LinkedIn, you have this on your profile that you said you're a barista at Starbucks for 5 years.
I was, yeah, I
I'm
was.
sure there's some scary stories in that role as well.
That's a whole other podcast. But yes, in any
I
way.
am curious though, like at home, do you guys still make coffee? Do you make coffee?
We do, but really basic drip coffee. But
No,
you put
there's
me
no
behind
tips.
a nice barista bar, I can whip up something pretty good.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So you're going to share a story with us. This is an agency that spent too much of their time in the crypt and not enough time drinking your blood.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right.
Handing it
Okay.
over to you. Tell us.
All right. Thanks, Jesse. So, once upon a time, long ago, when witches and werewolves and vampires roamed freely, I was a wee marketer, getting my feet wet, hiring a growth marketing agency for the first time. And as many know, when you are doing something like that, you not only need someone to take on very heavy lifting, but the stakes are really high to produce results. So you're not just looking for an agency with the technical or formulaic aspects of building your marketing strategy. You're really looking for a trusted partner. Huh. Fast forward with the headless horseman, uh, uh, we hired an agency who on paper had all the bells and whistles, a large dedicated team for us, an impressive client list with great case stories, great referrals. They had published in awesome publications that were kind of dreams for us. They checked all the boxes and they were even referred. So we were stoked. We had found a great partner, and we were ready to roll. Um, Built into the contract, as with many of these sorts of things, was 1 month for them to really become indoctrinated into brand trust. We are a research and brand strategy firm. We use methodologies rooted and applied in social and behavioral sciences to inform brand strategy for our clients. So it's a really exciting, interesting company. We've been around for over 20 years. So we had tons of information to get them indoctrinated, become a brand truster, and really learn who our buyers are, what our voice is. Awesome. So we get rolling, and little by little, as we work with them, becomes more and more clear, especially with content ideas that they're proposing, that they maybe are not understanding our business at all. Fast forward some more time. We really kind of felt like they had categorized us in a just kind of agency formula. And so nothing they were proposing was aligning with what maybe our buyers might want to hear, what where we want to be in publications, what even keywords that we want to be ranked as, just all these things that are kind of like, you know, what we need you to do. This is what we hired you for.
Right.
And then the project management and communication style. Talk about not sucking our blood enough. Sounds strange. Sounded much better when you were saying it, Jesse. But they were elusive at best. It was a, kind of a disappearing act. They would disappear into this black box, and I would be constantly following up for status updates. Where are we on this? What do you need from us? When are we publishing this stuff? How can we prepare? But in a situation like this, you're in a contract, you have to deal with it. So what we had to do was a lot of hand-holding, a lot of follow-ups, a lot of rewrites, a lot of pushback. And it took our team a lot of effort, a lot more time in the investment that they were supposed to take the load from us, but we had to invest a lot in that partnership. So did we get a lot of great results and momentum from this relationship? Definitely.
Yeah.
Did we have to work a lot harder to achieve the success? Also, yes. So that is a scary agency story.
So I like now when you're going through the process of evaluating, a partner, like what things are you looking for out of that experience?
Yeah. I thought about it in kind of three steps of just really before you engage with anybody, before you send out an RFP, really know what kind of partner that you need and what kind of partner is going to efficiently help you achieve your goals. If you want a, candid relationship with your partner, if you want them to communicate a ton, I like over communicative, probably burned from that experience. So I really like a partner that over communicates. I like a candid relationship. But you really just have to know what you need and what you want before you even hit the ground and start exploring who's out there. It's kind of like dating.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I would also say that right off the bat, beyond the RFP, you should be establishing your expectations and, again, that tone for the engagement. So beyond what the goals you want to reach in your RFP, but it's just really communicating to them what your expectations throughout the journey, throughout this relationship are going to be, so that they are set up for success to meet those. And if they don't feel like they can, then, or you don't feel like they can, then you put it out there and you can just trust your gut, which leads me to my kind of last lesson is trusting yourself. You know your business more than anybody else does, more than anybody else that you hire. So you have to be confident and trusting your instincts. And when someone is coming to you because they have all this experience, if you're not feeling like that is right for your business, then you've got to push back and say, no, this doesn't feel right. And let's talk about it some more and grow from there. Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot like hiring, employees as well. I think like you learn, there's only so much you can learn in the vetting process and the interview process. But like for me personally, I want to try to spend as much time as I can with the vendor or the person we potentially hiring to really get like, are we working? Are we able to work together? Like, how is this going to actually materialize when we get into the project? And sometimes you can't really learn as much as you need to know until you actually get into it. But that is a good lesson. Yeah. And sorry you had to go through that, but it did sound like, I mean, you guys are savvy enough to kind of like, I think, make up for, what you were lacking. But
exactly that, you work with what you've got. You just got to find the right partners that will work as hard as you do.
That's awesome, and I appreciate the enthusiasm and the added Halloween references during your story. That was fantastic.
You're welcome.
But thanks, Jillian. Appreciate you joining us. And now we're gonna bring in Melinda. Hold on a second. Technical difficulties here. Hey, Melinda.
Hello.
How are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm scared after hearing both of those stories.
Yeah, I said don't watch this in the dark. So, Melinda Joseph, you are CMO at Sterling Trading Tech, and I also saw from your LinkedIn profile that you were an adjunct professor at Columbia College here in Chicago as well.
For about 9 years. Yeah,
that's awesome. And what were you teaching there?
Well, this is almost like could be its own webinar, but I graduated from Columbia. They had asked me to come back. I was part of a competition course that I taught with another teacher, which was very intensive, and I just couldn't continue that while I was working. And so they asked me if I'd stay on, taught an intro class for a while. Then they asked me if I could build an experiential marketing class.
Oh, cool.
So I built that class and taught it for years, and it was lots of fun.
Wow, that's awesome. And then, like, you're in fintech now.
Yep.
But I saw also that you used to like run taste of events, like taste of like Streamwood or something.
I started in tech for marketing, went off into event production for about 8 years, and then went back to tech marketing where I belong.
Well, I mean, I think it's good to have different industry experience that you can, try to feed off of. But you found your home here at Sterling Trading Tech. Can you tell us a little bit about Sterling and what you guys do?
Yeah, we are a leading provider of trading technology for the capital markets, specifically trading platforms, order management system, and risk and margin solutions, specifically for equities and options and futures. So I oversee all of our marketing, both internal and external, for our brand and for our company.
That's awesome, and seems very complicated in terms of like the technology that you guys are building.
My passion for tech marketing is really, as a marketer, you're kind of forced to think about every product that we're putting together and pushing out in terms of messaging is newer, better, cheaper, faster on some level. Yeah. So for me, I always think it's a very engaging challenge.
No, I think like as a marketer, when you have to take something that's very technical and potentially nerdy and kind of like make it understandable to layman, right. That's a good challenge. So that's awesome. Yeah. So your story is about the end of a sports curse that in turn cursed your event.
Yep.
I'm trying.
Is that the lead in? Because I don't want to cut you off. Okay. I will tell you this much. I shared the link with my dad who's watching. Hi, Dad. He actually let me know that the World Series, the first game, is on tonight, which I think is like spooky because that is what my story is about.
Ooh,
yes. So spooky. I produced events for about, let's call it 8 years, right? And so over the course of those years, as you are putting events together, you see it all, right? No matter how prepared you can be, something always goes wrong. We've got 16 cases of wine delivered, but no wine openers, or an ice machine that isn't producing ice, or outlets that are no longer working. Whatever it is, over the years, you see it all, right? And so to be as prepared as possible for events, there's always this master list of here's everything that we need, and here's the plan for everything, and here's who's running every component, and here's the backup plan to every component, right? So really kind of going into any large event, the more prepared you can be, the better, the more backup.
But you're not going to always be prepared.
That's right. So one of my largest events I produced was Mac and Cheese Fest in Chicago. This event typically had a lunch and dinner session, about 2,500 people at lunch, 2,500 people at dinner, in and out. We had, guest judges, and then about 50 or so restaurants that participated. So you've got vendors coming in and out, you've got press on site. The personalities judging. You've got all the guests coming in and out. And this is, pre-COVID, so that we still were using recyclable materials in terms of tasting and food bites, in terms of just ease of production. But I would say even leading up to that, I don't know that I'd be able to produce an event at that level had I not been able to, had I not been producing events already for almost 8 years in terms of seeing it all, right?
Right.
So.
And this was what year?
2016. Somehow the Cubs made the playoffs for the World Series. And, game 3 came along, game 4, game 5, game 6. As we were, promoting the event, and it ended up turning out that game 7 of the World Series was the same day as our event. And so typically in general, when we were promoting or putting out any type of event, your biggest competition is really people's time, if they would like to attend that versus doing anything else. And so it became a very big challenge. By the way, that's kind of when you go back to the contract of force majeure. Like, if the Cubs are in the World Series, does this count as an act of God for my contract? Yeah. And the answer is no.
The Cubs, though?
Not.
Not
So
even the
there
Cubs.
was, moving the event to another day was not an option, right? And so we really had to think fast in terms of how do we save this event and how do we make it as successful as possible. So we put a ton of messaging out that we were going to have live Twitter feed about not only the event, but also the game. We were going to have a live feed of the game so people could, what we tried to then position the event as was take the food. If you weren't actually going to the game, right, if you didn't have a ticket, we were going to kind of solve the food component of your evening if you were going to watch the game.
Sure.
So you could come eat at the event and still see the game, because we were really, to compete with Game 7 World Series in Chicago when they haven't won in over 100 years, was quite challenging. And it's something that no matter how prepared we were, that type of timing where, yes, the playoffs are happening, but for it to be your city and Game 7, I mean, that's something we couldn't necessarily plan for. But typically when choosing event dates, we do try to look at what else is going on in the city, what else could interfere, because again, the biggest competition is people's time. So
it's pretty safe bet. World Series Game 7 in Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's this year, 2021. Game 1 is tonight. Obviously, it's not Chicago, but World Series, so it can have that trauma all over again. But it was a good learning opportunity just in terms of as things change. For example, even like COVID, right? Like no one could have. I don't want to say no one could have predicted it, because there's like TED Talks about how this could have happened. But, things that like you have to on your feet plan for overnight in terms of things that are out of your control, and then how you're going to pivot, how you're making the best of it, how you're salvaging things. It was definitely in that regard a learning lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but like, what was the turnout like? Did it, I'm assuming it was lower than what you had expected.
It was lower than what we would have expected, but it was not a disaster. We didn't have to cancel the event. It's not that, there was 4 people there. We did have a good turnout, but it was disappointing. I mean, we for sure would have been able to sell out if it wasn't for the game.
And like, how far were you guys from Wrigley?
The event was held at the University Center Pavilion. So it was like Roosevelt and Halstead.
Okay, so not too far.
Yeah, not too far in terms of traffic, I guess, Cubs traffic.
Well, just in terms of like people being diverted and going, well, maybe I'll just head to Wrigley.
Yeah, I'll just head over there instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, like any other lessons learned from that experience, like if you knew that the White Sox or the Cubs were in the World Series again, would you have done anything differently?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you have to try and avoid that, baseball season. And again, well, if you think about it in terms of like a comfort food, right? Like in terms of the calendar, we were thinking we want to be in fall. We want to stay away from back to school. We want to stay away from Halloween. We want to stay away from Thanksgiving. We want to stay away from the holidays. And then you're looking at, sports or any other types of Jewish high holidays and anything else that's happening where all of those things really just affect scheduling. So
the Spanish holiday in August, I guess, is another one to try to avoid too. So Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, Melinda, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to bring everybody back. Hey, guys.
Hello.
So I don't know. Did we have any questions? No questions from the live crew. But I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining us. It was great. I think there was a lot of nuggets in this webinar that people should learn from, and we will share as well down below all of the organizations that you guys work for. And again, thank you very much. Happy Halloween. Stay safe and don't get too scared. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Was fun.